A woman won a war inside Gosha, yet the enemy hunting her wore a government badge. If that sounds routine, it is not, because one hidden grudge nearly reshaped Gosha itself. And by the end, the name behind that grudge turns out stranger than the attacks ever were. Welcome back to the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe before this rabbit hole gets deeper. To understand it, we need to jump to the years between 2083 and 2086 around Gosha. At that point, Igawa Asagi was not fighting one crisis, but several overlapping ones. The weird part is that some threats arrived as enemies and later stayed as allies. Asagi is the center of this story, but not in the way most fans usually frame her. People talk about victories, while I keep staring at the choices she had to make. And honestly, some of those choices looked more like damage control than heroics. In 2083, a woman named Clear Robel became a target of a hidden operation. A weapon carrying an explosive device was sent after her by unknown interests. Asagi secretly staged the death of Sungo Bunko after learning a grim bureau plan. Fumiko Taro followed his own trail and learned about that scheme through Kurenai. Meanwhile, Mine Funako carried a deep hatred toward Asagi for unknown reasons. The tension grew so far that Asagi used her demonic form against Naito Arahiko. The confrontation ended without full war, but the hostility never truly vanished. And that leaves a nasty question. How far would the Bureau go next time? During that distraction, the Konda Brigade moved to recover Clear Robel from Gosha. The plan failed because Taimanin forces protected Clear and pushed the attackers back. Back in Gosha, Asagi revealed Bunko had returned under the name Library. Library joined their ranks with new parts, which sounds normal only in this setting. Then comes a detail most people barely mention. A clone from 2076 was allowed to live. Fumaaki looked after that clone while she worked at the downtown detective agency. Asagi also supported Shizuru's mission to reduce harm around Yomihara and Nomad. As long as Ingrid remained in charge, Asagi believed that path was worth testing. The gamble worked for now, but every compromise created another future problem. In 2084, Asagi approved an investigation led by the Independent Rangers. The case focused on a serial killer connected to the Internal Affairs Bureau. That investigation produced an outcome almost nobody expected at the beginning. Library's daughter, Izumo Tsuru, was discovered alive instead of lost forever. At the same time, a plan to eliminate Asagi with a demi-human army failed. That single discovery changed what was at stake for more than one family. Because once Tsuru returned, old assumptions started collapsing one after another. Then 2085 arrived, and somehow the situation became even messier than before. Asagi rescued the dark elf Eleanor from the slave catcher Black Knight Percival. Percival wore magical armor that made conventional weapons useless against him. So Asagi fought him using only her fists, which is such an Asagi solution. Eventually, his helmet came off, and Percival was killed during the struggle. A civilian lost memories of the incident, yet Eleanor still thanked that person. Afterward, Eleanor joined Gosha's protection while searching for her missing sister. But the larger conflict with the Bureau kept growing behind the scenes. A reformed revolt group led by Igawa Senshu launched a raid against Gosha. The attack caused widespread destruction and pushed the village into crisis. Even then, Asagi defended Gosha and convinced her aunt to lower her weapons. Then, the story takes a turn that sounds absurd even by this timeline's standards. Senshu had been carrying an atomic bomb without knowing it at all. Asagi spoke with her instead of escalating the confrontation any further. That conversation led Senshu toward revealing the person behind the chaos. The mastermind was Mine Funakawa, who was actually Hattori Seishu all along. Hattori survived by being implanted into Mine's body and hiding in plain sight. Once exposed, Mine lost government protection and was captured by the Rangers. Several benevolent demonic groups aided that effort because they suffered as well. Senshu and Asagi finally ended their quarrel after years of fear and conflict.
Asagi even argued that Senshu deserved a pardon despite everything that happened. Senshu rejected that possibility and viewed herself as beyond redemption. She isolated herself in Yomihara and followed a path of self-destruction. Concerned by that decline, Asagi sent Kotaro to keep watch over the situation. But hatred from other Taimanin still lingered, and that choice carried a price. A group consumed by resentment decided to invoke a forbidden Hexenbeast curse.
They brought forth the curse after sacrificing themselves to fuel the ritual. What followed was not a battle people celebrate when discussing this timeline. Senshu gave her own life to stop the curse before it spread further. That loss struck Asagi hard, despite every conflict they shared before. She had hoped they could reconnect as family instead of ending like that. And honestly, that regret hangs over the rest of the story more than victories. In 2086, Asagi received a secret invitation to stay at Marriage Land. Fuma Kotaro, Lenoa Saren, and Yatsushiro Momoka were involved in that visit. Tamamo arranged the invitation, adding another strange chapter to the timeline. The experience pushed Asagi to think seriously about marriage once again. Around the same period, she sent Fuma Saika on another important mission. Saika aided succubus forces, fighting against the threat posed by Ereshkigal. The reward was information regarding the mysterious figure called Phantom Witch. Saika confirmed that Mizuki Shiranui had become that figure in truth. Now known as the Phantom Queen, she ruled after Kamadeva's death. Shiranui sent Asagi a message, despite rejecting her humanity and former ties. She claimed she would continue opposing evil, but on her own terms. Asagi kept that information private, and later shared it only with Kotaro. Then Ambrose approached Asagi with a request tied to future cooperation. He asked her to watch over Lilim, the natural heir of Kamadeva. The goal was a shared struggle against Ereshkigal and future threats ahead. And Ereshkigal was also connected to the corpse lord named Tutates. So after all these victories, Asagi still faced a board full of moving pieces. The strange legacy here is not power, but how often Asagi chose restraint instead. And every time she avoided a larger war, another difficult decision appeared. What stays with me is that her hardest fights were usually conversations, not battles. Honestly, I think the Senshu tragedy hits harder than any victory in this entire arc. Maybe because nobody truly wins there, and that makes the story feel uncomfortably real. The reveal behind Mine is shocking, but the regret around family lingers longer for me. And if you think about it, how many disasters here began with fear rather than evil? If you do not want to miss stories even wilder than this one, subscribe right now.